Good evening, everyone. My name is David Rayla, and I'm the hearing officer for San Francisco Public Works. Cerise Waders is the clerk for this hearing. This hearing is being recorded on Zoom and will be available at San Francisco Public Works website, sfpublicworks.org. As this is a virtual hearing, there is no sign-in sheet, so if you'd like to be updated on the result of this hearing, please send an email to the email address listed on the hearing notice. Now, this public hearing is being held to consider 4 items. I'm going to list them right now. Hearing order 207-109 to consider removal of 1 significant tree with replacement on private property at 65 Cleary Court. The staff has denied the removal and the applicant has appealed. Then hearing order 207-110, it is to consider the removal of 1 street tree with replacement at 601 Illinois Street. The staff has approved the removal and the public has protested. Then the hearing order 207-111 to consider the removal on 1 street tree with replacement adjacent to 1000 Sutter Street. The staff has approved the removal and the public has protested. And finally, the big one is 207-112, and this is to consider the removal of 12 street trees and 16 significant trees with replacement on private property at 401 Parnassus Avenue. I believe this is for the new hospital. Staff approved the removals and the public has protested. Okay, so here's how I would like to proceed. I will ask Public Works Bureau of Urban Forestry to speak first and describe how the item arrived at today's hearing. Then allow the property owner representative to speak, and then allow the members of the public to do the same. If you would like to use visual aids in your presentation, please let me know beforehand so we can accommodate. If you're a member of the public that wishes to speak, please wait until I call the public's turn to speak and then use Zoom raise your hand feature. If you're on the phone and not on the app, you can dial *9 to raise your hand and then *6 to unmute yourself after we recognize your turn, basically we're going to call your name. Each speaker will have up to 3 minutes to speak. The clerk will monitor the time for all speakers. When you hear the first bell, it will mean the speaker has 30 seconds left to speak. A louder second bell will signal that the time is up. The comments and questions should be addressed to me only and not to the department or the protester applicant. If you cannot finish your comments within the allotted time, you can submit written testimony to me at that email address listed on the hearing notice. If I feel that question is warranted, I will ask that question. After all comments are completed, I will close the item and we will now begin the hearing. Now, first order is 207-109. Can I have Buff make his presentation, please?
Mr. Rayla, the first item would be item number 2, the public comment.
Okay. Are you talking about the members of the public may address the hearing officer on matters that are within the department jurisdiction but not on today's agenda?
Yes. We just allot
Okay,
time for
let's start
that.
with, I'm sorry?
I said, yes, we just allow time for that if they want something to be recorded into the record.
Okay. Okay. Still 3 minutes, right?
No, well, I don't know. Yeah, it's
Okay.
just I see a
Okay,
hand
well,
here. I'm not.
let's start on that item. Is anybody in the public would like to speak on matters that are within the department jurisdiction, but not on today's agenda?
Yes, this is Colleen Mullins. I just wanted to let you know that your chat is disabled. So I was trying to answer the administrator, but couldn't. That's all. Thank you.
Oh,
Okay.
thank you very much.
Okay,
So
so
is there
you,
something we can do about that?
I don't know, but you were able to see my chat, correct?
Yes.
I'm not certain.
Let me see. I'm gonna do a test. Can anybody see my my
It's-
message?
Yes, now it works.
Yes, I see yours.
Okay. Okay. Would you like to try? Just to confirm.
Yes, it works.
Perfect.
Okay,
Excellent.
great. Yeah, like I say, we've
Um,
had a couple of problems this evening. So, okay, great. It's all working.
it's
So I did not
technology.
see any other hands for item number 2. Thank you.
Okay, great. Thank you so much for letting us know. Easier to do it ahead of time. Okay, so hearing order 207109. Can I have Buff make his presentation, please?
All right, so I'm gonna request to share my screen.
Yes, please.
And here we go. So this hearing is a tree removal hearing. And just a quick background is Public Works has the task of managing all the trees in the public right of way. And our main goal is to ensure safe, clean, and green infrastructure within the public right of way. So we have to balance maintaining safety and growing and preserving our urban forest, as well as also keeping up with the growth of the city itself. So again, we strive to preserve and grow the urban forest. And anytime a tree is going to be up for removal, a permit is required to remove a tree in the public right of way or a tree within 10 feet of the public right of way. So if the department is removing a tree, replacement is required with 120 days. And if we have challenges replacing the tree within that time, then we will note the tree replacement and keep a report. That way we don't miss planting any of the Bureau removed trees. If a tree can't be replanted in the exact same location, then it will be replanted at a nearby location. And if a property owner or an applicant is granted a removal permit, the code requires a replacement tree of equivalent value to the one removed. And if a tree cannot be placed in the same location as the removed tree, typically because of a conflict with our planting guidelines, then a in lieu fee will be collected so that the Bureau can plant a tree at a different location. So this all is outlined in our Street Tree SF program, which you could look up online. So the first order is to consider the removal of one significant tree with replacement on private property at 65 Cleary Court. Our staff denied the removal permit, and the applicant has requested public hearing. So this tree is again at 65 Cleary Court. It is on private property. The tree species is a Monterey pine, and it has been applied for removal. So here's the tree information. It's about 55 feet tall, roughly. About 25 to 30 foot spread in the crown. The condition is poor to fair. It's a mature tree, and it has been stressed by possibly some drought stress, and possibly either a fungal or bacterial infection. It's hard to say because there's no real obvious signs of what could be the cause of stress, but still it does have a lot of vibrant green canopy, and is not an urgent or immediate public safety hazard at this time. There has been extensive pruning on the building side, which could contribute to its stress. There are some dead branches, but those dead branches do not warrant removal in our opinion. So here's some more photos of the tree. At the base of the tree, you can see there is some bark loss, but it doesn't appear to be significantly decayed. Again, you could see the location of the tree on private property, not within the public right of way. So the applicants had a arborist report completed for this tree and many other trees on their property. And these comments only pertain to this particular tree. So the arborist report recommended a mitigation action as removal. And we feel at the Bureau that this tree can be managed by pruning, and removal is not required at this time. The arborist report stated the tree health is very poor. We have to disagree with that, and we believe the tree health is fair. There are some dead branches, but you know that can be pretty typical for some large old trees. The arborist report states that consequences of impact would be severe, which is serious personal injury or death, and you know, serious high value property damage. We believe that if this tree were to fail, the impacts are not likely to be higher than significant. This tree's probably not going to fail just in the middle of the day when there's a lot of people out, and this may not even be a very high trafficked area. So, and the likelihood of failure with impact is somewhat likely. That may be the case, but it would only likely affect the path, and it's not likely to strike an individual. And that's mainly because people aren't hanging out under this tree during the majority of the time. They may be passing under this tree for a small amount of time, and it's really unlikely that, you know, impact would happen to a person. Those are our findings, and that is the reason why we denied the removal. Again, replacement has been recommended by the consulting arborist, but we have not reviewed an extensive replacement plan, which also factors into our decision to deny the removal of the tree. And we did receive one letter of protest from the public, or excuse me, we did not receive any protests of removal from the public, but we did receive a request for public hearing from the applicant. So that concludes this order at 65 Cleary Court.
Thank you. All right, will the applicant or property owner go next, please?
Hi.
Hi.
I'm going to share my screen, or I'd like to share my screen.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, give me just one moment. I'm going to promote you to panelists.
Thank you. Sorry, my name is Colleen Mullins, and my PowerPoint has disappeared. Oh boy.
Give it just a moment or try it and start again. I don't know why we've been having technical difficulties today, but
Okay.
fine going out and coming back in, and it may come back.
Like out of the meeting, or
or
let's see, maybe I can do it.
Out of your share screen button.
Let me see if I can do a oh no, that's not working either. That's so strange. Oh, here, okay. Can you see it now?
Yes.
Okay, great. Thank you. I'm so thank you for your patience. My name is Colleen Mullins. I'm the president of the board of Laguna Heights Co-op Corporation. And I'm going to be reading the arborist statement given to us for the hearing. And then I'll give you some comments myself. This is one of 33 Monterey pines that I assessed for Laguna Heights Co-op Corporation or LHCC, the applicant, as a part of a larger management plan. Like the other Monterey pines on the property, is declining from pitch canker, which kills the branches from the tips back and is not curable. It is the applicant's goal to maintain all of their aging trees as long as possible. The pines receive regular treatments of agrifos to manage the pitch canker and permethrin to manage bark beetles, which weaken infested trees. They also receive regular irrigation and deep root fertilization to support tree health generally. Despite this regular and reasonable care, the trees are gradually declining and dying and being removed and replaced over time. I recommended this tree for removal due to its decline in health despite the regular treatments. I do not believe the tree is healthy or sustainable. The applicant intends to replace this tree. Please allow them to remove the tree and refresh it with refresh their aging forest. And just to, I'm going to stop the share. To let you know, there is actually, I'm sorry, I didn't think to send you guys the forestry plan for the property, but all of these trees are being replaced by Canary Island pine, which is less susceptible, as you know. I have lived at this property since I was 2 years old, except for the adult part when I left before my parents did. And these trees matter very much to me. And we ask this with the most gravity and a little bit of fear. It's over a public sidewalk that is actually used quite a lot. And some of those branches, I believe, do go over the driveway of the building. So I don't live in that building, I live in the one next door, but that's our chief concern is the liability. They're losing branches in storms, and it scares us. We're concerned. We don't want to remove trees, believe me. So we're asking it with a great deal of gravity, and we've been good on our word. We planted trees on Laguna 4 years ago. You can see the Canary Island pines there that have started, and we water them dedicatedly 20 gallons a week. So do you have any questions?
Thank you. Yes, did you mention that you have 33 trees in your care?
Yes.
Be managed. I wasn't sure if you said this, but did you say that you are requesting to replace all of them, or
No.
is it just this one?
No, it's just this one. This one is within your purview. We have a forestry plan now to deal with whether we're pruning back and we're trying to keep the trees as long as possible with regard to the pitch canker, because we really don't want to lose mature trees. These trees are nearly 65 years old. They extend, I think, 2 stories above our buildings at this point. But of course, that creates a little fear as well. And last October, when we had the big storm, we had a lot of problems. But yeah, there are currently 33 trees on the property. The property isn't fenced, so the whole neighborhood enjoys our property and our other trees, and it's rather like a park. I think Daniel probably saw that. Yeah, so no, not all 33. We will be removing some. They'll be replaced with Canary Island pine per the plan.
Thank you. I have a question for Buff then.
Sure.
Were you aware of this, what you call it, canker? Is it disease, or is it bacteria, or
Yeah, pitch pine canker is, I think it's either bacterial or fungal disease. It mainly does affect this species of tree, and you know, it does cause decline in trees. Now, when trees get pitch pine canker, they can survive for many years. They will be, sometimes disfigured, and sometimes they will have branch loss. But the inspecting arborist who viewed this tree didn't feel that this particular specimen had enough obvious signs to warrant removal.
I see. So in your mind, there is no pressing need for the removal of this thing. Like for example, for ficus trees, you have this kind of codominant that tend to limbs that tend to split, and nobody knows when they're going to do it. But here looks like some of the branches are dead. That's for sure. It looks like maybe the fungus. I don't know if it's visibly. If it's visible, if that's the green thing that I was looking at. But your position is that even though it doesn't look great, it's still a pretty solid tree. Is that correct? Even though it's diseased.
That's correct. The stance that we have come to is that the tree can be managed to reduce a lot of the risk without having to remove the entire tree at this time. Now, you give it a year and the condition of the tree may change. And, if that does and when that does happen, then we'd reevaluate the tree. But at this time, we don't feel that it requires removal.
Okay. Okay, I think I understand. So what would a tree look like so that you would consider a removal to be appropriate?
So when Monterey pines get, when they severely decline, they usually start browning out at the top. That's usually because of the beetles. The beetle and coupled with drought stress will cause the tree to become brown. And if you get a little bit of brown at the very top of the tree, then it's pretty much condemned. Even if the rest of the tree is green at that time, you wait about 3 to 6 months and the rest of the tree will be brown. And we just don't see that with this tree. The other signs we would look for are, major canker wounds or cankers on the main trunk of the tree that are kind of mechanical risks for the main trunk. And
Meaning they can fall down.
Yeah, so
break.
yeah, so pitch pine canker can disfigure the main trunk of the tree at the point of infection. And if it's disfigured enough, then it can indicate that there's some decay around that wood, which would increase the likelihood for failure at that point. And again, we didn't observe any significant cankers on the main trunk of the tree, except for maybe the one at the base. But in my opinion, and I haven't seen this tree in person, full transparency, our inspecting arborist for the area inspect this tree, but from the photo that I saw, it doesn't really meet the criteria for us to approve removal.
All right, thanks. That's all the question I have for you right now. Is there any member of the public who would like to speak next? Cerise, do we have any raised hands? Oh, yes, we do.
Yes, we do. We have Josh. Go ahead. You should be able to speak.
Thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Yes.
Okay, yeah, so everyone listening, a little San Francisco Urban Canopy 101. Our city has the smallest urban canopy of any major city in the United States, hovering around 13%. By contrast, Los Angeles is around 20%, New York is around 25%. So when it comes to lousy tree canopy, we are number one. Good news, San Francisco has an urban forest plan, a plan to increase our street trees by 50,000 trees by 2034. Bad news, since we rolled out that plan in 2014, we've been wildly failing it. And in fact, our canopy has decreased since that plan was rolled out, not increased. And this past year, despite our dwindling urban canopy, failing climate and ecosystem, and increasing urban heat islands, our city allocated exactly $0 to Public Works to plant new trees in this fiscal year. So even though a tree is supposed to be replaced within 180 days, good luck with that. All the department can do right now is pretty much keep a running list of all the trees it can't afford to replace. And last I checked, that's not going to help our world a whole lot. But while Public Works holds these hearings to give trees a fair shake because they're required to do that by law, departments like the PUC and Rec Park have zero hearing requirements, and trees in backyards have no protection whatsoever. And we lose those by the hundreds, maybe thousands every year. So when I see a healthy tree, a viable tree on the chopping block, it kind of makes me sick to my stomach. It hurts, especially, you know, and I suspect we may see this later on in this hearing, folks lining up at these hearings, starting off with the comment that they love trees and support their preservation, yet I don't see them at any other hearings other than when they come to support their removal. But having said that, a quick note about this particular area, about a block and a half away from this tree, there was another Monterey pine that was removed in the crosswalk in the median for a massive crosswalk to accommodate up to 80 people in that crosswalk. That was part of the Geary Boulevard Rapid Transit Project. I lost my fight to save that tree and it was cut down, but in the process, I negotiated for 15 more trees for this neighborhood, including 10 new sycamores along Geary and 5 Canary Island pines in the median. And it's for this very reason that I respectfully object to the removal of yet another mature Monterey pine in the same neighborhood that the city's arborists have determined is still viable. City arborists are, number one, keenly aware of tree liability citywide, and two, not paid by the applicant for their assessment, instead by taxpayers of the city who rely on them to make professional and objective findings and to please do all they can to protect our ridiculously small, underfunded, and shrinking urban canopy.
30
Thank you.
seconds. Oh,
Sorry, was that the end?
that was the end. I said 30 seconds,
Okay.
but he ended
Yeah,
at
well,
the
just
same
wanted to make
time.
sure. Yes. Thank you, Josh, for the comment. And I believe we have the next speaker lined up already.
The next speaker is John Nolte.
Yes, John Nolde.
Good evening. Can you hear me?
Yes, we
Yes,
can.
we can.
Okay, great. Yes, I too know about where this tree's at. It's a block away from Geary, and you know, again, there are multiple, as the property owner or representative of the property owner stated, that there are multiple Monterey pines on this property. And of course, I have seen these trees in person during my survey, so I have seen them myself. And so therefore, I don't feel that this tree needs to be removed, as stated by the arborist for the city. It does not meet the criteria for the removal, and I think that should weigh heavier than someone that's going through a forestry plan to replace the trees. And also, my only statement that I have is these Monterey pines, and I think the arborist probably could answer the question, how long is the average life of a Monterey pine? That would also help, because the property owner stated how long these trees have been there. That would also help the decision making. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Do we have anybody else? Oh, yes.
No, there are no other public hands at this time.
Okay. All right. Then I believe I will close this item and move on then to the next. Order number 207110. Can I have Buff make his presentation, please?
So this order is to consider the removal of one street tree with replacement adjacent to 601 Illinois Street. The staff has approved the removal and we have received a public protest. So this tree is adjacent to Illinois Street. It doesn't really have an address. It was part of a permit application by the Port Authority. So the tree information is here. It's a Tristania or Tristanopsis lorina. Swamp myrtle is another name for it. The tree's about 20 feet tall, maybe a couple, give or take a couple feet, with about a 15-foot canopy spread. The diameter is 5 inches, so it's not really that large, but it is kind of a good looking tree at this point. So the condition is good. It is a healthy tree. It's young and it has established pretty well. So there are no real obvious deficiencies except for maybe a lean, slight corrected lean, but it's planted a little bit above grade, which could be issues for the tree in the future, but right now it's not really a problem. So the tree is in the proposed path where this sidewalk is to be widened. This is a sidewalk widening project, and that is why the applicant has applied for removal. So the Port Authority is installing a 14-foot sidewalk at this section of the Illinois between Mariposa and 18th. And a lot of new trees were planted in this area within the last couple of years as part of the Crane Cove Park Development Project. So this photo shows the area where they're proposing to widen the sidewalk. As you can see, it's barely 3 feet and less than 3 feet in some spaces. And this is an ADA issue and causes you know, sometimes people have to step out into traffic, or if they're in a wheelchair or something, then they may not even be able to pass at this point. So with the plan to widen the sidewalk, the Bureau staff has approved the removal of this tree with replacement somewhere along this frontage. So here's a photo of what the proposed sidewalk will look like. You can see the new sidewalk will extend into this this park area where the tree is currently inside of. So we received one letter of protest for the removal of this tree. It can be replaced somewhere along this location, and the Port Authority will be the people responsible for that replacement. If for some reason they tell us that they can't put a tree here, then the plan is to collect an in lieu fee, or they'll be planting a tree. So just a note, this is within the port's jurisdiction, and this hearing recommendation following the public hearing will not be appealable to the Board of Appeals.
Thank you. I believe this is my first hearing with a tree within the Port of Authority territory. So that's so I'm a little unclear as the differences other than the unappealable nature of this. Could you elaborate a little further, as in if it is not within our jurisdiction, why are we having a hearing about it? I mean,
So any tree in the public right of way or within 10 feet of the public right of way is protected under the city code, and regardless of who's removing it, we still have to follow the removal procedure outlined in Article 16. So I can send you more information on that, and we'll get you completely up to speed as to what the port's responsibilities are. But they do have to follow the removal procedure, again, as outlined in Article 16.
Okay, understood. So they do fall under our purview, but then some things are maybe a little different. Okay, yes, please bring me up to speed in these little things. I know the certain requirements, say for stormwater, for example, they can be different for them than for the rest of the city. So I'm curious to know how it affects the you know the city's forestry. Okay, let's move on to the applicant. Do we have anybody from the Port Authority?
Hello.
Hello, hi.
Hi, my name is Jack Jackson. I'm here on behalf of the Port of San Francisco's Planning and Environment Division. And I have some points that my leadership team has prepared for me to present here.
Okay,
And I
did
can go
you
through
want
them.
to share your screen or are you just going to be speaking only?
I can just speak. It's very, very brief.
Okay, you will have 3 minutes. Go ahead.
Okay, thank you. So the first thing is that we need to install a sidewalk where one does not exist today that is accessible. The new sidewalk will enhance and close a gap in the SF Bay Trail and Blue Greenway. We need to construct a safe sidewalk for all users. The tree in question was replaced with several new trees in Crane Cove Park. And also, this is a longstanding project of the Port and SFMTA, which is going through a community outreach process, including twice recently at the Port's Southern Advisory Committee meetings and several times prior. And those are the points that I have to bring here tonight. Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Jackson, what did you say the name of the project was?
So the project is it's actually SFMTA's project to enhance the site. I'm not exactly sure. I can look it up for you really quickly though. Give me 1 minute, one moment.
Sure. I mean, if you need some time, you can just write it in the chat if you like.
Yeah, I'll do
That
that.
was my only question. Oh, no, actually, sorry, I have a second question. I'm not sure who can answer that one, but who planted the tree? Was it the Port Authority or was it, Friends of
I
Urban
actually don't
Forestry?
know.
So Crane Park may be managed by SF Rec and Park, who
Oh, yeah.
are
after
the
park,
likely
right?
planters, but they could have partnered with some other groups. So, but they are under management of the tree, I believe.
Okay.
If it is on the park property, so we'll have to double check that, but I could get you that information from our records.
Yes, please. I would like to know where exactly the tree is or under whose jurisdiction. Obviously, it's the Port Authority, but if it is in a park, then it's the Rec and Park. Just for my own understanding. Okay. Yes, thank you. Let's move on to the public then, please. Now we have Josh. I see you raising your hand.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Thank you. I have 3 points I'd like to make about this proposed removal. I mentioned earlier that the city has a pathetic 13% tree canopy. That's an average, and it includes places like the Presidio, Golden Gate Park, all of our parks, as a matter of fact, backyards, etc. So I'd like to point out is that this particular location, in this particular spot, there is a 4% tree canopy. 4%. So what we don't need in this area is more impermeable surface and urban heat island, which is exactly what tree removal achieves. The second point I'd like to make is that In my professional life, I am a certified access specialist through California's Division of the State Architect, which means that I'm roughly one of 1,300 people in the state of California certified to evaluate accessibility in the built environment for people with disabilities. The ADA only requires sidewalks to be 3 feet wide. The California Building Code is more generous than the ADA and requires sidewalks to be 4 feet wide. So here, ostensibly, in the name of accessibility for people with disabilities, we are going to take out a healthy tree to build a sidewalk more than 3 times the width of what California's already generous building code actually requires. So leaning on the ADA and calling this an accessibility issue is not even close to what the law requires, not even close. And that cannot be a reason relied upon for taking out a healthy tree in the name of access when the law is very clear. The maximum you need is 4 feet, certainly not 14. Third point, prior to my work as a certified access specialist, I practiced law. I'm still an attorney. So I'm a little confused how the Port Authority applies only the part of the law to itself that requires it to participate in this hearing, but not the part of the law that requires this decision to be appealable. Even the PUC has tree removal hearings and appeals processes because they understand the law applies to them, which is ironic given how poorly the PUC also treats its trees under its jurisdiction. But in any event, just to reiterate, 4% canopy, the ADA, not even the California Building Code are an excuse for a 14-foot sidewalk. And I still don't understand how Article 16, all the parts of Article 16 would not apply to the Port Authority I believe what the Port Authority would be claiming here would be exclusive charter over its projects. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have someone else? Not so far. Oh. Who's that? Giannotti. Please go ahead.
Good evening. The Port Authority, again, is part of San Francisco, and also since it is an authority that is sort of separate, but still part of City and County of San Francisco. And since it is part of the City and County of San Francisco and gets its money from the City and County of San Francisco, therefore Article 16 would apply. There's no ifs or buts about it. And so I think some cleaning up of how the agenda was written and how this was proposed during the hearing has to be looked at before any decision is made, because misinformation being given out to the public and also on this video about who is in charge and why it is or it isn't appealable to the Board of Appeals. That is not, again, you cannot have it both ways. Thank you.
Thanks, Mr. Noti. Just to reiterate, did I hear you having an issue with the way this agenda is written? And if so, could you point me to the pertinent section?
What was said in writing on the PowerPoint stating that it was that this this item cannot be appealed to the Board of Appeals. If it's being heard right now, there has to be a process for if any tree removal hearing, there has to be a process for if the tree's removal is granted, there has to be an appeal process. All other city and county agencies have a process. So saying
I
that
understand that, Mr. Noti.
Okay.
Sorry, I was just referring
just trying to
strictly
clarify
to
what was being
this
said.
agenda
and
right
not-
here.
Yeah, I'm just clarifying that for you. Thank you very much.
Okay, great. All right, thank you for that. And let's move on. I don't think we have any other member of the public. At least I don't see anybody with a raised hand. So let's close this item and move on to the next one. Erie Northern 207-111 for 1,000 or 100 Sauer Street. Can I have Buff make his presentation, please?
Okay, so this order is to consider the removal of one street tree with replacement adjacent to 1000 Sutter Street. The staff has approved the removal and we've received a public protest. So the tree is actually located on the Hyde Street frontage. The adjacent address is 1000 Sutter. This is tree site number 4. So this is the 4th tree adjacent to this building, and it's the corner tree. The tree is a ficus, and this tree was applied for removal by the adjacent building who is completing a renovation. So the tree's about 35 feet tall with roughly a 30-foot spread in the canopy. Its condition is poor, mainly due to some defects such as a major wound at the base, probably from being struck by a car. Lower branches have been wounded by large trucks, most likely, and there are multiple poor branch attachments, which increase the likelihood of failure for some of these larger branches. The reason why they applied for removal is because their infrastructure upgrade requires a high voltage PG&E vault, which is planned to be installed in the sidewalk directly adjacent to this tree. And installing the vault will likely impact the tree health and is very likely to compromise the structural integrity of the roots. It's likely that they'll have to sever some very large roots to install the underground vault. Here's some photos of some of the tree defects. You can see there's a large wound here, and canker right above the wound. And you can see that the bricks in the tree well are starting to girdle the base of the tree, and could be, causing root issues, maybe some, root decay. It's hard to tell, but it's possible. And the poor branch attachment as well. So we approved the removal of this tree because they do have a replanting plan. They won't plant right at the same location, mainly because the vault will be there, but they will be planting a new tree on the Sutter, this Sutter frontage. They plan to plant a Catalina ironwood in the location shown in the photo.
May I have the property owner or representative next, please?
Hello, can everyone hear me?
Yes, I can. Hello.
Hi, everyone. My name is Rebecca Gigi, and I represent the ownership at 1000 Sutter. 1000 Sutter LLC is an affiliate of Episcopal Community Services. We're a nonprofit that provides services and housing to those who are experiencing homelessness in this city. I'd like to start by saying that we explored several options to locate the PG&E utility vault, and unfortunately, this particular location where this tree is located was the only location that gave us the clearances that we needed. Given the proximity to the accessibility ramp and the overall building. The second point that I'd like to make is that this vault and the upgrade that goes along with it is a substantial quality of life issue for the folks who are living at this particular property. This is 216 units of permanent supportive housing, which means everyone who is living in this building is coming directly from homelessness through the adult coordinated entry system in the city and county of San Francisco. These rooms are pretty small. Some, about 50% have private bathrooms. The others only have sinks. There's no kitchen. So currently the building is running on 600 amps, and this new switchgear brings it up to 2000 amps so that everyone can have a microwave and a mini fridge in their unit. ECS is committed to food security for our residents, and having this electrical upgrade will allow for folks to maintain their food security, to maintain medications and refrigerators, and ensure that they won't have ongoing power outages, which they have suffered for a very long time in the past. And that is it. Thank you. Oh, I do have a couple of diagrams to show if that would be helpful as well.
Sure, if you like to show it, please. So the when you do that, the scope of this upgrade, it is provide more power to the building. And are there any other structural? You mentioned a ramp. Are there any other structural elements that are going to be close to the tree, or?
Sorry, I missed part of your question while I was becoming a
Yes,
panelist.
what I was asking is if part of the renovation includes the structural elements within the sidewalk or street area, well, probably sidewalk.
So there are structural elements around and within the building. Most of them are in the basement, including, you know, piles and shear walls. There is a fiber polymer wrap that will be adhered to the exterior of the building. So there may be some interference with the sidewalk at some point during the project, but it won't be. The scaffolding is up there now, and so that's pretty much the extent to which you would see an impact in the sidewalk.
Okay.
And I'm going to
And
show
of course, the
Rayla.
trees are being protected as this activity is going on,
that's correct.
I'm assuming. Okay.
Okay, you had 1 minute and 19 seconds remaining in your 3 minutes. Is that what you wanted to adhere to, Mr. Rayla? For her to share now?
Yes, so she has like a 1 minute left or
1
so.
minute and 19 seconds, yes. Okay,
Yeah, I think that
Whenever-
would be enough, I think.
okay, whenever you're ready.
Okay, so this is the location of the vault and the proximity to the existing tree. And then this next drawing is just the demolition plan. So this is the existing tree that needs to be removed in order for the vault to be placed. And as Daniel's presentation showed earlier, this is the tree that is existing on Sutter, and the replacement tree will go in this area.
Sorry, I cannot see your cursor. Is that which area?
Sorry, let me get a little bit further. So this is the tree that exists now in Daniel's
Right.
photo. The replacement tree will go around this area.
So you shift about 15, 20 feet or so.
I believe so.
Okay.
And I will stop sharing.
Thank you. I believe that's it for questions for me. Can I have the public next? Josh? And I believe I said this last hearing that we had together. I don't want to be presumption in calling you by first name, but again, I don't have a last name, so if you'll forgive me.
Oh, no,
I'll,
that's
uh,
fine.
declare you
That's
by first name.
that's totally fine.
Okay,
Can you hear me?
thank you. Yes.
All right. I've got 5 questions and then just a final point. My first question is, who fact-checked PG&E on their conclusion that this was the only location for this vault? And the reason I ask this is not just because I'm paranoid, but it's actually based on experience of years protesting removals for this very same reason, in-ground vaults. And it has turned out in some instances that that was not actually the case, and that there were alternative locations, but PG&E doesn't usually get challenged on this. So my first question is, who checked them on that? My second question is, what did the 2017 tree census conclude regarding the maintenance needs of this tree? And where does it sit on the department's maintenance grid map? Because it sounds like this wasn't an emergency until PG&E asked for its removal. Or I guess in this instance, it would be the property owner. Third, since PG&E wants this tree out for a vault or has said that this is the only place that the vault can go, and why aren't they here explaining that, including all of the alternatives they considered? Fourth question is, were there any consequences for girdling the tree? Because this seems to happen all over the city and goes without a consequence and results in injury to a lot of trees. Fifth question is, when is this tree going to be replaced? And more particularly, what is the maintenance plan? Because it's great to say we're going to replace it, but I've lost track of how many trees were replaced and then died for lack of care. Who waters it? And more importantly, who replaces it when it gets vandalized? Because especially in certain neighborhoods in the city, there is a very, very good chance this tree is going to be vandalized. Its branches will get ripped off and then it sits there dead, not replaced, but the permit holder still gets to say that they did their job and the city is out another mature tree. And then just a final point about power outages generally. We're living in a city that is becoming hotter. We're living in a world that's becoming hotter. And what removing trees does is it increases power needs, especially as we become hotter, because trees reduce, they are cooling, they reduce energy needs. And don't ask me, you can ask PG&E about that because they just did a presentation on this in one of their own conferences. So especially as we become a hotter climate, we need to be planting, not removing trees, especially around buildings that house vulnerable communities such as this. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Actually, a good point about the new trees being vandalized. I have seen that myself around the downtown location. It's really a shame. Feel for that because there.
So just to hop in real quick, it is the permit holder's responsibility to maintain and plant the tree within 60 days. So, okay, so let me just back up a little bit. It is the permit
Mhm.
holder's responsibility to plant the tree within 60 days of receiving the planting permit, which is always issued with the removal permit. So they have 60 days to complete the removal and replant the tree. The permit holder is also, and the adjacent property owner is also responsible for maintaining the tree for 3 years.
Yes.
After which, if the tree is established, the Department of Public Works will maintain responsibility of the tree. So if the tree dies within that 3 years of establishment agreement time, then the adjacent property owner will be responsible for replacing the tree.
Right. Thank you for that. Okay. Carry on. Is John Nolte, please.
Good evening. A couple of things. The current tree location, since it wasn't really shown in the picture, but it's in a red zone. The curb is painted red, so therefore there shouldn't be any cars being parked there. So therefore it shouldn't be being hit by a car. That's a red zone. Next, it is the exposure is to the south east of the city, and therefore it's going to have major sun now shining where the tree is and impacting all the windows on that side of the building where the tree is now covering with its foliage the windows. So that's going to heat up all those rooms where they just mentioned they don't have enough electricity, and I didn't hear anything about putting fans into the room. So therefore, you're now heating up rooms that were not heated up before when you take out this tree. Then the next issue is the location they propose for, if it's to be moved to the new location, if this permit is approved, the location, if you looked at the diagram, which I did, was very simple to look at, it shows that there's a sub-basement there. So therefore, there won't be enough root system for the tree to be planted in. And so therefore, it showed where, the presenter showed the location of the tree to be planted, and it's not going to be enough room for a root system for a sizable tree to be planted because that is in the Lower Nob Hill neighborhood, and it needs a big, since you're taking on a big size tree, should also have, the order should also say at least a 36 or 48 inch box size tree planted if it's replanted. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anybody else? Nope. Doesn't look like it. I will close this item then and move to our final meteor item. Can I have Buff make this presentation, please? 207112.
All right, so this order is to consider the removal of 12 street trees and 16 significant trees with replacement. The significant trees are on private property, and there will be a street tree replacements as well. So the staff has approved the removal, and we have received a public protest. Here we go. So this is brought to us by a permit application from UCSF. Their plan is to demo the existing hospital building and build a new hospital building. So a lot of the trees that are along the frontage of this building project are within setbacks or within new vault locations. And most of the work that's needed to complete this scope of building project will significantly affect the trees. So, you know, some of them can't be pruned to the best pruning practices. Some of them will have root destabilization. It's a very extensive project. The tree count is here as well. It might not be completely correct. I didn't complete this slide myself, but these are probably the street trees here, or maybe just the significant trees. Either way, you could see some of the tree count here. So here's the first couple of trees. We have some arbutus, which are in a proposed vault location. Installing the vault will destabilize the tree roots. Here we have trees that are in the setback, likely or very possibly within the new building footprint, and demoing the building and building the new building is likely to impact these trees. Pruning is probably not a good option for trying to retain them, since they're going to need access from cranes. They're going to need access from big trucks and things like that. So removal has been approved for these trees in the setback. Here we have more trees that are in the setback. Some of the trees do have some obvious defects and may be in decline, and some of the trees are just in the way of the proposed building. Here we have more trees in the setback. These particular ones shown in the picture are Monterey cypress trees. These are significant trees on private property within 10 feet of the public right of way. And here we can see more trees in setbacks. These are Metrosideros trees, which will be affected during the building project. These are some street trees here. The scope of work also plans to demo the existing sidewalk and reconstruct the entire sidewalk with new utilities and new utility lines. Again, we have some trees that are in the street. These are street trees within the demo sidewalk area. Here are more trees that are in setbacks that will likely be impacted by building the new building. So 28 trees for removal for construction of new hospital, and the hospital has pledged to replant 2 to 1. So if for every 1 tree they remove, they plan to plant 2 trees. They have plans to plant in the surrounding neighborhood, so in locations that are across from the building, and also plans to plant in the sidewalk adjacent to the building. So we've received 3 letters of protest, and that concludes this presentation. So if you have questions, I'll do my best to answer them at this time, and if I can't, then we will send you that information in email or however you'd like to get it. I believe you're still muted.
My bad. Thank you for the presentation. Let's move on to the property owner to present his own rationale for this request.
I believe you
Alice,
wanted to
please.
be promoted to panelist. Is that correct?
Yeah, if you could, please.
Okay, just one moment.
And then I have 2 other speakers with me who should be promoted as well, Christine Buckley and Morgan Bisett.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, I can share my screen, but Christine Buckley will be speaking first. So let me know whenever she's unmuted and ready to go.
Christine, are you able to speak?
Yes,
Okay,
and
there you go.
Abby, it looks like, okay, there you go. Sorry, let me just get my notes up. All right, so good evening, everyone. I am Christine Buckley. I'm a director for the new hospital at Parnassus Projects Heights Construction Project. I appreciate everyone's time tonight. We do have a presentation that we're going to share amongst a couple of us. We wanted to explain first off why we need to remove the trees. UCSF's commitment to greening Parnassus, as well as our 2 to 1 replacement program that was mentioned earlier, and some of our next steps for that process. So first off, the background as to why we need to remove these trees. They are required to be removed, as mentioned earlier, to build a new hospital. We're going to be building a 875,000 square foot, 15-story hospital. The program is what we see on the screen right now, the slide. Essentially, it's 300 new beds, 21 new ORs. So it allows us to increase our capacity at the Parnassus Heights campus. The NHPH vision is to bring nature, human-centered design, and innovative medical center into one healing habitat. Next slide. Wanted to just reorient everyone to the project site, which again, you kind of already saw earlier, but NHPH is on the east side of our campus. And in order to construct this new hospital, we first need to demolish the current Langley Porter Psychiatric Institute. We have also lots of multiple underground utilities that we required to install along the frontage. A lot of them are associated with hospital, which has very strict utility requirements. Our new foundation, as it was mentioned, does extend out to our property line. And so a lot of the trees we're talking about are significant, so they're on our property line. And that includes a basement, which is pretty essential because it connects with our Moffett Long current hospital, including to our radiation department and other essential areas. If you have any further questions about the actual new hospital, I'm gonna, please just visit our website, and there's contacts and more information. And so please feel free to reach out to us directly if you've got any specific emails. But I'm gonna turn it over to Abby to talk more about what you're here today to hear about the replacement program.
Great, thanks, Christine, and thank you for having us tonight to talk about it. So just a little more information about our Green Parnassus Heights. Oh, sorry.
If I can interject just a moment, thank you. Mr. Rayla, did you want me to just restart the timer for each speaker?
No, it will be 3 minutes.
Okay, because there's only.
altogether.
Oh,
well,
we're
then-
sorry, we didn't realize that. We kind of planned 2 minutes and 2 minutes. So yeah, sorry about that. Thank you.
Well, if we can move on to salient points, and maybe I can ask some questions later then.
I'll breeze through this and won't go into all of my points, but just as Christine mentioned, we have to remove these trees so we can build a new hospital at Parnassus Heights. We are committed to replacing them 2 to 1 on and off site, which equates to 56 new trees that will be planted in San Francisco. We've done a significant amount of community outreach over the past few months. We've emailed neighbors, we've mailed postcards, we've held 2 community meetings, and we organized a survey that went out to thousands of neighbors of the Parnassus Heights area to get their input on where we should replant the trees. We also attended the Inner Sunset Flea Market and the Farmers Market to do further in-person outreach, and have shared this information publicly throughout the summer and into the fall. And just briefly, the results of our survey, we proposed 4 different options of where to replant these trees, extending from the north, south, east, and west from our campus. Over 200 neighbors took the survey, and 56% of them ranked the westbound direction towards the Inner Sunset as their #1 choice. And given the recent assessment of open street tree wells done in the Inner Sunset by DPW and Inner Sunset neighbors, plus the city's goal of adding 30,000 new trees in San Francisco over the next 10 years, UCSF is eager to work with the city family and neighbors to further those efforts by replanting these trees. Here are our next steps, which I won't go into, but we plan to work with the community organization to have a larger community replanting event to replant these trees. And then just some streetscape views of what the new streetscape will look like along Parnassus Avenue at our UCSF flagship campus. Here's a rendering from across the street, and then a pedestrian view as you're walking east on Parnassus Avenue with the hospital to your right. Thank you.
Thank you. And yes, I would like the this presentation, if you could please send it to me through, sorry, is this sfpublicworks.org? Is that correct?
Absolutely.
Email? Yes, right?
Yes, that to Urban Forestry. I typed it in the chat.
Oh,
But
yes, okay.
if this is what you forwarded to me earlier, I have already saved it in our files and sent it forward.
Okay, perfect. Then I already have a copy. Okay, yeah, I need some time to go through it. Obviously, a big ambition project, and I do have a question about that alternative that was selected. And I see the those greenings of those trees, streets. Sorry. Those are all going to be new trees, or they're going to be a mixture of trees and new trees and old trees? How would that be carried out, or is that still kind of in the planning phase? And speaking of phases, when would the new trees be planted approximately?
Our hope is to plant new trees off campus in the spring of this year or as soon as possible. But the trees immediately in front of the new hospital will be replaced once construction is completed in 2030. And that will be a minimum of 14 trees will be replanted there. And then the 46 remaining will be in the neighborhood, hopefully this spring.
Okay, I'm assuming there's like a streamline application for all those trees in all those streets. Because I'm curious on how is that gonna work. Are they gonna trigger their own 3 hearings, each one a single one of them? Well, I guess we'll find out next year. Wait, there's not gonna be any removal, just planting. So I believe planting does not trigger a hearing necessarily.
That's correct. There's
Um,
no public hearing process for planting of trees.
Within the right of way?
Yeah, the department has full jurisdiction over planting in the right of way, and yeah, trees are going to be planted in the right of way.
Okay, and of course they will have a proper basin size and proper species and all that. You guys will coordinate, right?
Yes, 100%. And Susan Nauberry has been doing the majority of the work with the hospital on this permit. So if you have more specific questions for the Bureau, we can get those answers from Susan.
All right, thank you. Let's move on to, that was it for me for now.
Mr. Rayla, they had one more
yes.
speaker in their team.
Yes.
There
Hi.
was a one speaker named Morgan.
Yeah, just I can answer some of the questions, you know, so we're still gonna have to do the permit process for tree planting. And, you know, we are also in the process of looking at who's gonna be planting the trees. There will be a community group, you know, and they'll be managing the tree planting with us and community relations and talking to the neighbors. And so the work we've been doing with Suzanne Moravi to help us locate the tree and what area we're going to be able to plant a tree. So it's going to be straightforward. So the community groups that will be planting the tree will be communicating with the neighbors and choose the street list from the DPW from BUF. So we're just going to follow the guideline.
Okay, understood. Thank you. Let's move on to the public then. See who's there, Josh. Oh, wait, who's first? Is it John Nolte first this time?
Yes, I'm
All right.
switching over the other
You
persons.
won the race.
Okay, and the speaker is John Nolte.
Chris, I have a video to show, so I believe I have that. Chris?
Okay, you want to be promoted to panelist?
No,
Just-
no. I sent you the video, so you just I'll play it.
Okay, just one moment, please.
It's only 2 minutes long, so I have a minute after that.
Bear with me one moment. It
Yeah.
signed me out of my my email sign in, so I have to re-enter everything. And then
Teresa,
share again.
I can share it on
You
the
have it?
screen. Yeah, I
Okay,
have it
great.
here.
Go
I
ahead.
don't know if the audio will come through, but
Okay,
That's okay.
I'll do my best. So
Let's give it a shot.
thank you. Yeah, because it's in the email that I sent.
Okay, here we go.
Yeah, unfortunately I cannot hear.
It was just music, so don't worry about it.
Oh, okay, great. Would you like to narrate maybe or make some
Well,
reservation
yeah,
as we go
these
through?
are the current trees as they are, and you see that they're already construction right now, and as you can see, there are not as many street trees currently there. And also you can see that the significant trees are a couple feet from the sidewalk. So problem I have is that they want to demolish all these trees, but see, there is a street which is shown 2 times there called Medical Center Way. And that goes all the way around back the other 3 sides of the property. That's the entrance right there. And there's another entrance of it right there. And you see them drilling right now. They could go all the way around to the back of the building. So that's 3 sides of the building for the hospital. They don't have to deal with the front as was being stated to remove all these trees. And if you saw the finish of the tree of the hospital, you saw that there was real height in the front of the hospital for these trees to stay. And I didn't hear anything in an arborist report or that the current trees are unhealthy. And we see this right here, that the yellow sign said right there, said that they will not be watering the lawn. And also, because another part of their plan is to green the campus. So that last slide showed right there currently on the property, they're not going to water the lawn or because we're in a drought. So and here we're talking about these trees are going to be supposedly planted 8 years from now, which is a long time. And I believe permits, anyway, so I don't think this is an appropriate good use of removing trees that were planted 50 or so years ago. And the mature, I didn't even hear the size of the trees. So they're only saying they're putting in street trees. And so that's not going to do a biomass formula for the trees that they are planning to put in. And they've used the same formula that they're discussing here at their other campuses citywide. So there's nothing new here. So thank you.
Thank you. Actually, there's an interesting point about drought. Maybe I can ask Buff, Rural Urban Forestry. In these times of drought, I'm not even sure I'm saying it right, a lack of water. How do we balance the needs of the trees for water and the lack of water? Understanding that the property owner is supposed to take care of the new tree for 3 years, which include, of course, the watering. But if they don't do it, then the tree suffers, it dies. If they do it, then they're not. I'm not sure. I don't think there's in San Francisco there's been any limit on the amount of water as has been seen in other cities in California. But that's certainly an interesting conundrum, right? So how do we deal with that, or we don't worry about it too much? I shouldn't say that we don't deal with it.
So the Bureau's mission is to help grow and preserve the urban forest, and we have the tree establishment agreement, which is the permit holder's responsibility to water and maintain the tree for 3 years. So the tree will need to be watered for at least that time. And if it dies, then the applicant is responsible for replacing the tree. You know, every tree is an individual, every site location is different and has different needs. There's recommended amounts of watering, but you know, some trees need less than that, some trees need more. But the base, you know, the bottom line is that the tree needs to be maintained for that amount of time. And it is a challenge not having water in this state, but I'm not a water manager, so.
Of course. Kind of a meta question then. Is this lack of water or, climate change, does it drive the choice of species for replacement? Is there like a general plan?
Yes, it does. Yeah, we're starting to move towards more drought
Drought
resistant
resistant?
tree species. And in
Drought.
fact, during this last 2022 ISA conference for the United States, there was a very good talk about moving towards more drought resilient species for the urban forests. So we're going to be picking that apart and taking note from those talks as well.
Good. ISA is what, sorry?
The International Society for Arboriculture. They're pretty much the main entity that credentials and comes out with a lot of the great information we use to help manage our urban forest.
Understood. Thank you. Thank you for answering this question. Let's move on to Josh. I think it's still, yes.
Thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. So first, based on John's photos, it would appear that the applicant is pretty confident they're going to get this removal permit and have actually already commenced construction around those trees. So as a member of the public, this hearing feels a little performative. Second, I know that this project has been in the making for a really long time. And what's a shame to me is the apparent lack of creativity in finding ways to incorporate rather than raise existing viable trees. In fact, I think I've yet to see a single project in the city that was like, wow, hey, look at these healthy trees. They're so good for humans and nature, which is a stated goal of this project. So let's really wrap our brains around how to save them. Let's get creative and integrate our buildings with nature rather than take the easy way and cut it down. Because at the end of the day, it's usually what it comes down to is square footage and what's the least expensive design and constructive techniques. Third, regarding replacements, again, I think what John was alluding to is look at the size of these trees. There is no way that the proposed replacements even come close to compensating for the loss of ecosystem benefits that the current trees provide at this time. The proposed replacement is 2 to 1. Okay, so let's talk about the plan here. Replanting by 2030. That's 8 years from now. We will be well into climate change, and who knows if we can even afford the construction by then, given the breakdown of global supply chains like we see happening at construction sites all over San Francisco. But okay, let's get back to replacement. We assume that these trees will survive to maturity, and I know the department indicated previously permit holders are responsible for the tree care for 3 years, but the department is also wildly under-resourced and has very little time or power to actually enforce that requirement. Okay, getting back to the replacement plan, let's just say a new tree is roughly 2 to 2.5 inches in diameter. All right, we've got 28 trees here. Let's figure conservatively 8-inch diameter average. So if we can a conservative 8-inch diameter average, 28 trees, you would need to plant nearly 90 trees to even begin to make up for that loss. And again, assuming these all establish and grow to maturity. Brief discussion about watering. That was interesting. A fun fact about trees is that particularly at maturity, they act as humidifiers and actually support more moisture in our air, which is why the earth has rain forests, but there is no such thing as rain deserts. And the fact we are experiencing more drought right now is exactly the reason we should not be cutting down mature trees and instead be doing everything we can to preserve them. In any event, it's just really a shame that in a city as ostensibly progressive as ours, the best we can come up with is bulldozing healthy trees, then lean on numbers in a replacement plan without considering the actual impact that the removal has on our climate, our environment, our public and community health, and our ecosystem. And instead, we're not even devising a plan that might begin to compensate for all of those losses. And it's just a shame that we lack the creativity to find ways to coexist with thriving nature, and instead we just assume that we will get the permits to routinely stamp it out. So we respectfully just request that the permit applicant here, again, I'm not trying to get you to go back and redo your 8 to 10 years of work, or it's probably more than that, knowing what it takes to get funding for projects like this. Well, I don't know. I've only a little bit. knowing that a lot went into it, it does not cost much to plant more trees in this city. It is one of the biggest returns on investments for our climate, for our environment, for our city, for our world, for our ecosystem. Certainly, we can do much, much better than 2 for 1 on this proposed removal.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. I don't think I have any additional questions for now for this item. I'm sure I will have much more to dig into in the next coming days. Like I said, this is a big one, big project, big consequences. So I would like to close the item this moment, and with that, close the hearing. Thank you very much for everybody who participated.